On this episode of AVWeek, Sennheiser gets rid of their consumer business. Extron deploys an NAV AV over IP system. And taking a look at IMCCA at CEDIA Expo. All that and more next on AVWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AVWeek, episode 508, recorded Friday, May 14th, 2021. Handle the truth.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Atlas IED, innovative audio solutions for every business environment. And by Draper.
This is AVWeek, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week. First and foremost, my favorite Bronx resident. Her name is Charmaine Torella. I can't say it correctly, but she works for Lyrics. Welcome, ma'am.
Hello, sir.
Tell people how to say your last name correctly.
Charmaine Torella.
There we go.
Again, you could say Torella. It's
but I can't say it. I've never been able to roll my R's. Just pointing that out there. Big, dumb Midwestern American. All right, also with us is Mariella Palat. Marielle is from Bridges System Integration. Welcome, ma'am.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely, thank you. She is down by Virginia Way. And also with us is Toby is a coworker of mine now. He works in Grand Rapids up in Michigan. Toby Tungle from CTI. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Really quickly, a couple things happening this week. We're going to put all of the stories that we sent these fine folks on the list, which means that there's like 4 or 5 stories. But one that kind of dropped yesterday that I want to bring up here, and I kind of threw a curveball at these folks, and so I apologize in advance to them, not to you, because this is the first time you're hearing this. CEDIA Expo actually announced this week that they are welcoming IMCCA. And IMCCA, real quickly, stands for the Interactive Multimedia and Collaborative Communications Alliance. If you're not familiar with IMCCA, here is the Cliff Notes version, and I'm going to get an email from David Danto screaming at me for doing this wrong, but here it is. IMCCA is a group that's really, really focused on unified communications and collaboration, the UCC space. They've done a number of events at Infocom. They've done a number of standalone events. Matter of fact, one of the last things that I did pre-COVID was with the IMCCA and David in New York. And we had a meeting at Microsoft's headquarters. A lot of really good, a 2 or 3 day collaborative experience. Our buddy Chris Netto, we did a live AV in the AM, actually from Barracks, Charmaine. So that was one of the last things that we did in that space. IMCCA is really, really concentrated on the UC platforms. Makes a lot of sense, at least to me, the fact that they're going to CEDIA. But it's very interesting. CEDIA, again, is a residential show. They are welcoming in a group that is focused on UC and primarily has done so in the pro space. Charmaine, we'll start with you on this. CEDIA happens the first week of September over in Indianapolis. Interesting to me, but what do you think? What's your take on the fact that CEDIA is bringing in a group that is so focused on UC and, again, has predominantly been in the pro space?
I think that's a good move on CEDIA's part, right? Because since we've been going through this pandemic, what has happened is a lot of knowledge workers pretty much went to work from home, wherever that home may be. For some executive level managers and mid-managers, they wanted to get the same look and feel of collaboration in their residential space. The difficulty, as we all know, commercial and residential, integrating in those two spaces, it's a night and day, it's not exact. So a lot of these people are now integrating to the home, but they want to still tie into the commercial space that they go in every now and again remotely. So the UC part of that, where people are using Teams and Zooms to tie into these different rooms, whether it's residential or commercial, is really key. And it's smart that CEDIA is picking up on this, and probably because their business experienced a great uptick during this pandemic because of it. And they're like, okay, you know what? They can do both. And that's what's happening. A lot of workers are saying, oh yeah, I want the same. I want it to be like a mirror image of what I experience in the office, exactly close to it in my house. And I want it all to tie together with the UC platforms that we're using, where I can do it from either or. So it's good that they picked up on that. I think it's a smart move to start doing that. And for the benefit of IMCCA, which is not many people are familiar with it still in the AV industry, it's another way to give them better exposure, which is what they need. IMCCA really needs a lot more exposure.
Absolutely. Toby, take a look at this from a couple different sides. One of the debates, I guess, last year was who's going to own the work from home space. I was actually just on a show with David Maldo and our buddy Kelly Perkins, and I made the comment. I don't think that what we're living now is our new normal. I don't, and Mr. Danto and I will disagree on that. I don't think that we're going to know what our new normal is for about 2 years. Yes, certainly hybrid working will be a part of that. I don't buy into the fact that it's going to be 60% of the workforce or 70% of the workforce, because there are many people who just like to be in person. They want to be in person. They even need to be in person. So all of that, there still will be a segment of folks who will want to work from home, who will work from home, who need a professional system in their house. So a move like this, does this kind of indicate that CEDIA, the organization, and CEDIA Expo, who again is not owned by CEDIA, it's owned by Emerald, is looking at this as almost like an area of competition with the commercial space?
That's actually pretty interesting. So I do agree that they're looking at it as a competition purely from the fact that while we all migrated from the office to the home office to figure out how to do our daily jobs, and some of us, to your point, did a really good job in that transition, and others didn't. They tried to find their way, figure out what technology worked for them, what didn't work for them. 18 months is kind of where I'm hoping we figure out what that new normal is. But I think CEDIA is really looking to tap into what we're doing in the commercial market, bringing that home, and then supporting, the technology that people need to have in their homes for a more professional setting. When my kids went virtual last year, it was, every other platform you could think of. Cameras didn't work, audio was terrible. And, us as AV integrators, we want to have that really good experience and that really good quality, whether we're at home, sitting in a Starbucks, on a plane, or at the office. So I think what really that they're looking to do is really expand that footprint, expand that knowledge base, get a little more understanding of what we're doing in the commercial market, and try to bring some of that stuff and those standards and processes and procedures back into that home office environment.
All right, Mariella, the last word on this one. Is this something where we're going to have to worry about the residential folks, and not necessarily the residential folks, right? Because there are people inside CEDIA who will argue with me all day long that Resi-Commercial is not a large portion of their membership. And I will consistently tell them that they're wrong. Because the people that I know, I have 2 or 3 dear friends here in St. Louis that are residential dealers primarily, right? They're members of CEDIA. Actually, both of them have been on the CEDIA board. They both do light commercial. They both do, restaurants. They both do hospitality. Is this something that we're going to have to, as a commercial space, start competing with, those folks who are in that in between zone of residential and light commercial, where they see this as, if I can get a dealership with a commercial product, and I don't want to pick on anybody here, because we all know, right? If you're working in commercial, switching or commercial video processing, there's one group of folks you're going to pick on, you're going to buy from, and another. But is this something where we see this as really a competition? And if so, what can commercial dealers do, and maybe what should Infocom do or AVWeek do as a response to this?
So I'm not sure my answer is going to be exactly the one that you want to hear, but I do think that moving home and working from home has led to a big transition. And for me, one of the biggest things that I noticed was I video call with my grandmother a lot more than I did before. And for her, communicating with a lot of different members in our family, she almost wants a Zoom room in her house. One display with a control panel, easy to use, that she can use to connect with family members here, in Peru, everywhere. And my mother recently started working on an assisted living project, which is just one home. It houses less than 10 people, and they also really want that Zoom room feel. I think the technology in the home is adapting so quickly We have a smart home with Alexa products everywhere. We're using technology in a lot more facets than we did in the past. That it wouldn't shock me to see the evolution of that technology, especially with the move to work from home, really grow and change as video becomes a primary source of communication for people across different platforms. So I think it may be the way things are trending.
All right, very good. Our next story comes to us from our friends over at AV Network. Sonova acquires Sennheiser's consumer business. What happens here is Sonova Holding AG, a German company, has picked up Sennheiser's consumer electronic business. If you're not familiar with the fact that Sennheiser had a consumer electronic business, that may be why they sold it. That's a little bit of me being snarky. But they did have quite the consumer business, everything from Bluetooth headsets to some of the best headphones that I have ever had in my entire life. Yes, Sennheiser is a sponsor of AVNation, but it's still some of the best headphones. Momentums are some of the best headphones I've ever had in my entire life. Incredibly comfortable and stupid expensive. So yeah. But one of the things that's interesting here is it's an interesting play to me. And Toby, we're going to start with you on this. From a company that has, had some starts and stops, especially over the last 2 or 3 years, when it comes to their commercial line and their integrated systems line, to kind of divest themselves of a line that, at least from the outside looking in, looks pretty profitable. A way that they could, kind of funnel some profits over here. What is your take on the fact that Sennheiser is kind of dropping the consumer brands and focusing and kind of doubling down, to use a gambling term, doubling down on their commercial products?
I will say their 550 wireless headphones are probably one of my favorites as well. They are stupid expensive, but you typically will not buy another pair unless you break them or get them stolen by my 10-year-old daughter like mine did. But that's here nor there.
My kids can steal any pair of headphones except for those.
Well, yeah, the noise canceling ones, they like it because then they can cancel out what mom and dad want them to do.
Yeah,
so that's,
yeah.
I mean, it kind of works, right? The Sennheiser brand is really strong in the consumer world and the commercial world. I probably have a little more experience on that consumer brand because I've got some friends that are part of the audiophile community, and they've had some mixed reviews on it. Personally, I'm not really sure what their overall thoughts are on it. My personal opinion is it really will allow that company to kind of dig in, get a little deeper and wider in the R&D side and the commercial side, that we've allowed them to really get into the market wider, stronger, better. Some of the products that they've released in the last even year have been really top notch. Their channel support is fantastic, and them starting to really reinvent that wheel faster and churn that even faster, I think, is something that I'm really looking forward to from that company. They do that on the consumer side today. They have done that consistently, but we've seen a little bit of slower turn and burn on that commercial side, and I'm really excited to see if they can't move some of those resources over and get some things to market a lot faster.
All right, Mariella, same kind of question here. You've got a company that has made, one of the first things that Dr. Sennheiser made was headphones, right, back in the 60s and 70s. So this is very interesting from that aspect, that they are kind of getting away from a little bit of their history and of their legacy. What is it, to Toby's point? What are we going to expect out of them? Coming out of this, that maybe they have kind of been a little bit lax on some of their engineering and some of their advancements.
So I'm still a little newer to the AV industry, just a couple years in, and I actually reached out to some of my colleagues and my boss, Brent, to get his opinion. And I didn't know that when Bridges was founded, we were really a Sennheiser shop. We sold all of their stuff, and they were our preferred manufacturer for every single project, in and out. But as Shure came to the market and the price points were a little bit more competitive, we really kind of changed gears. I know their reputation is solid, and there's no question to the products that they make are really good. But Shure, being US based, kind of took over our business. So I'm wondering if they're going to focus on that kind of competition that maybe has changed some of their commercial business, and see if they can become more of a presence in the way they were in the past.
All right, very good. Charmaine, last word on this one. What do we make of this, and what do we see Sennheiser, pivoting to, and really kind of how are they going to use this as energy and fuel moving forward?
Yeah, it seems like they're doing this to laser focus really on the commercial, as Toby said before. But I'm a little dismayed that they did spin off that consumer piece. And this is what I'll say, because the two S's, Shure and Sennheiser, what they both have in common is a lot of history. right, in how they started their innovation, their products. Sennheiser has that history, and so does Shure. And Shure still has that consumer piece, right, which gets a lot of traction and sometimes crosses over into the commercial world. And Shure's also trying to make that push, right, in the commercial more because they have a strong hold in the consumer. So I think it's not a bad idea for, spinning that off so they can focus more on the commercial, but that consumer energy helps them also, as it does with Shure. It helps propel them. So spinning that off, my question to them is going to be, all right, you spun that off. How are you going to keep that energy and propel your commercial stuff? Now that you're going to dedicate more time, you're going to have to redirect that energy as you did with consumer. Take that somehow to further propel yourself in the commercial market. And it's going to be interesting. I can't wait to see what happens. They do have great products. Used them a lot for the over 10 years throughout various companies. It's just now that you've done it, what energy are you gonna bring to your new Sennheiser commercial self, right? So that's what they have to answer for me.
Absolutely. I put a link in the chat, and Mitchell will put a link on the site. I actually got the chance to go to Sennheiser about a year and a half ago. The last time Neto and I, Chris Neto, and I did AV Magazine Awards, and I got the chance to go over there, and I was introduced to something called the HE1 headphones. Now, have any of you heard of the HE1s?
Yes.
Toby's
Awesome.
shaking his head. That means you're kind of bougie, Toby, because they're $60,000 headphones.
I don't
They
own
are.
them. I've just heard of them. There's a
Okay,
difference.
well, I've listened to them now because I got to watch a guy make them. It's a marble bass, right? I mean, it's ridiculous. Yeah, Mariella's like, oh my god, it's ridiculous. A guy shows up in a limo in this box in a tux and white gloves at Elon Musk has got like two of them, right? Ridiculous. But to Charmaine's point, that sort of thing, that exorbitance, that let's take this thing out as far as we can go, that does tend to drive some of the commercial side, right? Nobody in their right mind, at least from maybe an audiophile, but nobody from a commercial side is really going to buy a $60,000 pair of headphones. But they might end up buying something that the technology from that is in there, right? And so that'll be kind of see how they're able to maybe there's an agreement where they share technology. I don't know. But yeah, the HE1s are pretty impressive. So
Yeah, I'm glad you said Bezos or Musk. I think Bezos had something like that. Those Fang guys had that thing. That's where I heard of it.
well, the
So
guys at Sennheiser, the folks in Hanover they specifically called out Elon Musk as having one. So I don't know. He was the most recent one to get a delivery. I don't know. So
Hey, Tim, can we work in a sponsorship for the four of us today?
yes, indeed, yes. I'll call up my buddy Charlie Jones. He'll get us all four of us. So. It was a joke, Charlie. Don't yell at me. All right, last story comes from our website, Extron, NAV. Their audio AV over IP system got deployed at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington, 145,000 square foot facility. And here's the piece I want to tie in on this. This allows for obviously the distribution of audio and video throughout all the classrooms. This is from Rob Mann from University of North Carolina, Wilmington, quote unquote, tying the cameras and mics to each room's location system and the distant education control room has proven a major benefit in the age of COVID. Before we get started, Extron is a longtime sponsor of AVNation. I have seen the NAV both in the person and in the wild. I've not seen a lot of deployments, so I was really kind of excited to see this one. Mariella, where are we when it comes to the state of AV over IP? I mean, when it comes to, we got this system here, which 100% is looking at, the benefits of the age of COVID, distance learning, as education facilities get back to classes. One of the things that folks are talking about is needing to deploy overflow rooms and making sure that if an outbreak does happen, they have the ability to send students into larger spaces that are more deployed. Where are we at when it comes to AV over IP in the world of commercial AV?
So I definitely think it's the future. I think most people would agree that's the case. But it's not necessarily brand new. Like I said, Bridges is a small company, but we deployed one of our largest deployments of AV over IP in 2013 for the SOC HHS. And so we probably have a dozen projects that are multi-million-dollar projects, and they span over so much distance. Obviously, they allow people to access these systems in coop spaces and different satellite offices everywhere. So especially now that we have, during the COVID era, that remote capability under our belt, we really like it in some cases. I think it'll definitely be something that spreads like wildfire and will be utilized a lot more as these technologies progress.
Charmaine, same question here. You have designed and deployed a number through Varix, and Charmaine, if you're not familiar, also comes from the world of telecommunications and IT. So always getting her perspective on this is very interesting to me as well. Take it from both sides of here, right? You still have a number of clients who don't want this stuff on their network, quote unquote, right? You've got to deploy your own entire separate system that runs parallel, but more and more are becoming more comfortable with it. So where are we in that whole, I guess, race?
Oh, the clients are shifting to it now. I mean, they weren't, you're right, before COVID, let's say 2 or 3 years before, take it to 2016 or so. They were like, no, we don't know how we feel about this on our network, and da 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 da. So yes, it was a parallel universe. However, now that they're realizing COVID has made it hard and difficult to have resources, go in to manage these systems, and a lot of the systems are disparate systems, right? They're all speaking differently. They're not speaking to one central point. It's like, okay, it's time. Now they know it's time. Plus, they've had the time to put their research and investment in cybersecurity, which is the other thing, right? Which is going to make this go much faster, AV over IP, because of all the hackings that we know about, everything. What people don't know is that many organizations for the last 2 years have been ramping up their cyber. And so now they're getting more comfortable with putting things on the network because they have the right solutions in place to protect it. So they're okay with it because they realized, virtualization is kind of what made them force the hand. Virtualization was more cost effective, it was cheaper, and in order to achieve that, okay, we need to ramp up cyber and allow for our network to be secure. And so now AV over IP, I have customers today are like, okay, we want to be able to patch into these rooms now. I'll tell you, kid you not, in the last 2 weeks, there were maybe 2 clients that for the last 3 years I've been speaking to about AV over IP, and they were so hesitant until now. Now they're like, oh, no, yeah, we're ready to go. Let's do it. And I was like, oh, really now? Yeah, we got to get this going. I'm like, okay.
Toby, that actually brings up a really good point, and you can answer the where are we question, but I also want to say, does that actually kind of lend itself to the idea that we should bring some of these cutting edge technologies to our clients even sooner, right? Some of the kind of the general wisdom is, well, don't deploy or don't suggest technology until it's ready, right? Until it's fully baked. Had Charmaine not, right, or had she not thought it was fully baked, taken that to her clients, they wouldn't have known, right, that was available necessarily. Maybe they may not have. I may be just barking up a wrong tree here, but is there something there that maybe we should start providing our clients more education, whether that's coming back from Infocom this October, or take at what SDN writes or our buddies at Commercial Integrator, or Brave, or Sonic Communications, whoever. This is the latest, greatest, technology. We should all look at that. Or is it just, no, we should wait until it's ready?
If you're waiting, you're probably 10 years behind everybody else already. So I truly believe that you should be talking about the new technologies with your clients. You want to be setting yourself up as a trusted advisor and a trusted partner to tell them the good, the bad, and be super honest with them as things change and evolve. The thing about it is I started my career in IT as well many, many years ago. It seems like just yesterday because I love my job. But when we first started, we were building 20,000 square foot data centers because that's what we had to have. And to Charmaine's point, look at the virtualization that's come along with that. The biggest slowdown, and this is going to be probably pretty controversial in our industry for AV over IP adoption, is ourselves. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of AV integrators out there that are afraid to take that jump. And when they're having conversations with clients, they don't know how to have the IT conversation for, the route switch and the VLANs and all the crazy stuff that goes along with it. And recently I had a meeting with a client, obviously you know who that is today. And one of their biggest things was through their interviewing process to try to vet who their partner was going to be for the next 3 to 5 year business plan, was how surprised they were. None of them had any IT people on staff. They couldn't speak the language. They didn't understand what they were asking them to do. They're very much still stuck in that. This is a hardware piece. I'm going to put it in your room. It's not going to connect to anything on your network. If it fails, I'm in my own world, and there's nothing that you can point back at me that broke your network. The flip side of that, with my team here at CTI, I would bet you 75% of the jobs we're doing today are on a customer's network to some degree from a basic management perspective, video, audio, whatever it might be. The more standalone stuff, those are small stuff, small rooms. I think in the next 3 to 5 years that if you're not in the 90% something sitting on the network, you are drastically behind where the industry is going, where it's driving, where the technology is advancing, and probably going to be so far behind you're not going to recover from it.
Well, let me ask this as we wrap up here. Mariella and Charmaine, you guys jump on this. What Toby said there is he listened, right, and had that conversation, empathetic to what the customer was wanting and needing, and kind of almost pulling out of him, right, and pulling out of CTI, and not Toby specifically, but in that conversation. Mariella, how do you develop that, right? How do you encourage that in yourself, in your coworkers, and developing kind of that, not empathetic ear necessarily, because that sounds a little bit, but an empathetic attitude and development.
Yeah, I think it starts with a really strong relationship that relies on open communication, really understanding what they want, what they need, and also what they're scared of. Because these solutions are really big and they're in places where really important meetings are happening with really important people. And when something goes wrong, it can be incredibly scary. And I know you don't want to think of, that high level executive or that 3-star general who's on this meeting or conversation where something goes wrong, being scared, but that's definitely what happens. And so I think if you approach it from the knowledge of, just being very open about what could go wrong, what could go right, what the platform for success is in the future, you're going to really get more out of their openness to try new things and to trust you moving forward.
If a 4-star general is scared, then I am too. I'm just going to put that out there. All right, y'all, that'll do it for us. Charmaine Torella, thank you, ma'am. How do people connect with you or Verix?
People can connect with me on LinkedIn or Twitter, spelling out my name, Charmaine Torella. And Verix, I work at Verix as a global managed services account manager. And I'm also the chairperson of the AVCCA Diversity Council. So you can hop on our page and reach out to me there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 things about what she just said. First of all, Tom Berry just celebrated 30 years, so congratulations to him over at Verix.
Yay,
also,
Tom. Yes.
The Diversity Council just put on a really, really impressive webinar. I don't know when you can see it in replay. I'm sure somewhere, but it was on neurodiversity.
Yes, sir.
And just a fascinating and an eye-opening webinar. So go check that out. Thank you so much, ma'am. Mariella Palat from Bridges System Integration. Thank you, ma'am. How do people connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. They can find me on LinkedIn or through the Bridges website. They can find my email and contact information. bridges-si.com, and Mariella Palat, Mariella Pilotte.
Very good. Thank you so much. Mr. Toby Tungle, thank you, sir. I've gotten to know Toby over the last couple of months and really enjoyed it. So I wanted to get him on. So thank you, sir. How do people connect with you or CTI?
So for me, it's at Toby Tungle on any social media channel you can find. I'm very active on all of them. I welcome the engagement just to chat, AV, whatever you want to talk about. I am a crazy cyclist as well. So if you want to chat about that, please reach out. Relative to CTI, it's conferencetech.com on all the social channels as well. top secret fun fact that Tim doesn't know about is I actually help with the Twitter on that. So let's go have some fun. I still have that on my phone from
Let's say, who
Infocom
gave you that? Hang
3
on.
or 4 years ago. Kathy did.
Lord.
Top secret, Tim.
I'm going to have a talk about that. All right. For those of you who don't know, I now work for CTI. I'm their CMO. And the fact I didn't know Toby had the login is kind of funny. So, yeah. For me, for AVNation, I'll go by our website, avnation.tv. Don't follow me on the Twitters because I'm still a little gobsmacked on the Bears' first-round draft pick. The fact that they continue to pick quarterbacks is just annoying. All right, go by the website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others. Also, while you're there, check out our sponsors, what we thank them for their support and their them helping us give you AVWeek and ResiWeek and all the others. Couple really quick things. Number one, you should go sign up for AV3. It is a all-day webinar series that we're doing with our buddies at SCN and also with AVCCA. So one whole day. I don't have how many CTS RUs we're getting yet. Last time we did this, you got 4.75, so I would imagine somewhere around there. So Mitchell will put the link to that as well. And in the month of March, we did an entire month of some really, really kick-ass women in AV. It's been really, really well received, and I'm gonna just keep doing it. It was for International Women's Day, and the feedback we've gotten and the number of women that have come just kind of email and this, that, and the other. I'm still getting an introduction to some folks that I have no idea. I didn't know they existed, or they didn't know I existed, and so we're still getting connections. So we're going to continue this, right? I don't know quite what I'm going to call it yet, but we're going to continue to interview and highlight women in the industry. So check that out and look for that over the course of the next coming weeks and months. So all that and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That is all the time we have for AV Week.